Hello and welcome to FACT Chicago. This is the French and American Climate Talks, Positive Change and Agenda Towards Climate Change. I'm Marissa Martin, I'm an attorney here at Baker McKenzie, and we're delighted to have you all here with our co-hosts, University of Chicago and the French Consulate. So this event is one of a series of events that's happening around Canada and the US the next couple weeks, with the basic aim of just encouraging dialogue and discussion about climate change and increasing momentum with the idea of increasing enthusiasm around the climate change negotiations that are ongoing now, and hopefully will culminate in an agreement next December in Paris in 2015. So this is an important discussion. We're very excited to be part of it. And as for the format of the event, we're going to hear from a couple speakers in the beginning, and then we're going to turn to two roundtables. The first one will focus on the urgent need for climate action, and the second will be on sort of new economic opportunities and new industries that may come from climate policy. And for both of the panels, we'll have a 45-minute discussion amongst the panelists, and then 30 minutes of question and answer from the audience. And I think we do hope that this will be sort of a conversation and a dialogue between the audience and the panelists. I think a lot of you are in this area and probably have perspectives and insights that we'd love to hear from. So now I have the pleasure of introducing Vincent Floreani, the Consul General of France in Chicago. He will make some opening remarks, and he is the Consul General of France and was just appointed in August of 2014, so he's new to Chicago. So welcome to our city. He has jurisdiction for 13 states around the U.S. And before coming here, he was the Deputy Spokesman and Deputy Director of Communications and Press at the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Paris, and the Assistant to the Director of the Press. He's also had a position in Abu Dhabi at the French Embassy. He was the Deputy Head of Mission there. And he served as the Head of Press and Communications at the French Embassy in London, and the first Secretary of the Permanent Mission of France to the UN in New York. So please join me in welcoming Vincent.
Good afternoon. I'm impressed to see so many people. Dear friends, 2 weeks ago, an important event took place in New York. 400,000 people, simple citizens, actors, world leaders, marched through the streets of Manhattan to raise awareness on climate warming. Similar demonstrations took place in many other places in the world. The facts about climate change are well known. They can no longer, in good faith, be denied. What are these facts? Let me mention three of them. Global warming is largely due to the action of man. The concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere set a new record in 2013. We can already see the terrible effects with the increasing number of severe climate disruptions. Flood here, drought there, hurricanes in places where they did not occur before, unprecedented long and cold winters. These are some of the effects. The renowned glaciologist and climatologist Jean Jouzel will tell you more on the facts. He is the Vice President of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC. In 2007, he received collectively the Nobel Prize with the IPCC and other prizes. Jean Jouzel, we are proud to have you here today. What are the consequences of climate disruptions? Death, starvation, migration, and most probably wars for water and lands. Some low-lying islands are already threatened by ocean rise. Climate disruptions are a threat to peace and security. That's why the UN summit discussed that 10 days ago. So this is the background of our discussion today, our meeting today. Faced with these challenges, France is acting, aware of our international responsibilities. We are working in three main directions, and I would like to highlight them with you to launch our discussion. First, we want to make sure the international community acts swiftly and collectively to address these challenges. A few years back, referring to climate change, French President Chirac said at the UN, "Our house is on fire, we need to act." UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon added last month, "There is no plan B because there is no planet B." At the global level, after the UN summit, two world events are coming. First in Lima, Peru, in December, and then in Paris, France, at the end of 2015. The Paris conference will build on the New York and Lima summits. It is an opportunity to reach a global and ambitious climate agreement, legally binding, that should lead us towards a net zero carbon future. Good news is coming from the main producers of carbon dioxide. In the US, awareness is rising and the administration is committed to act. In China, the authorities are concerned with pollution and are taking measures. In India, Prime Minister Modi is also willing to act. Brice Lalonde, former French Minister for the Environment, thank you for coming from France for the president. You held and still hold several positions to help foster international agreements on climate and environment. We have also with us Eric Posner, Professor of Law. Thank you for your presence. You will tell us more about climate change, justice, and ethics. In Europe and in France, we have taken and implemented measures to reduce greenhouse gas. Right now, the French Parliament is debating a law to build a clean energy transition in France. The objectives that our government is pursuing are in particular reducing our greenhouse emissions by 40% by 2030, reducing by 50% our final energy consumption by 2050, increasing the share of renewables by 32% in 2030. France is also helping most vulnerable countries. In New York, a few days back, French President François Hollande announced a contribution of $1 billion to the Green Fund. My second message is that fighting climate change must involve all stakeholders, not only government officials. For the Paris Summit in 2015, we are already working with cities or regional authorities, with NGOs, with private companies. They are instrumental to achieve our goals. There is good news coming from them as well. When I talk to CEOs in the private sector or to city or state officials, they tell me about their concern for the environment and their efforts to limit their carbon footprint. We would like the Paris Summit to share solutions rather than sharing the burden. I would like to thank Karen Wiegert for her presence. She will tell us more about the city's effort in that regard. Mayor Rahm Emanuel has said he wants to make Chicago the greenest city in the world and has published a plan to that effect. Sandy Carter, a community organizer, knows a lot about community-driven campaigns. Thank you for being with us. Raising awareness is the raison d'être of these Franco-American climate talks. These talks are scheduled in 7 cities throughout the United States and Canada. They involve leading scientists, NGO representatives, politicians, journalists, and entrepreneurs. Several other exchanges like the one we have today will follow. We hope to have another edition next year in Chicago. Third and last message, combating climate change should be seen as it is, a great opportunity, not a constraint. I would like to thank Richard Sandor for his presence. It is a great honor, sir, to have you here. Mr. Sandor will tell us more about the economy of carbon and much more. Emilie Alberola, an economist from France, is also with us. Merci. There is a huge potential of economic development with the accession of new dynamic and motivated players and holders of innovative projects. There is a huge potential of economic development with the emergence of new industries and new markets. Bart Shelton, many thanks also for your presence. You know a lot about energy and environmental markets. Amy Franstick, CEO of Clean Energy Trust, we are also glad to have you here to speak on these topics. I would like to conclude first by highlighting a moral obligation. We have the responsibility to provide future generations an environment in which human development takes place in accordance with the capacity of our planet. To finish, I would like to thank all our partners for this conference. The Institut Français in Paris, the University of Chicago, and last but not least, Baker McKenzie and their staff for the generous hospitality and their support in the organization of this event, this marvelous building, with this marvelous weather. Richard Sainz, Sheria Jenkins, and Laurel Rhodes have been of a precious help. Thank you very much, and we want to continue to work with you. Thank you all also for the two moderators for the roundtables. Brian Craig is the Director of Communication for the U.S. Department of Energy. So interesting. Here it is. And Mansa Martin, attorney in Baker McKenzie, Climate Change and Environmental Practice Group. Merci beaucoup. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Richard Sandor, who needs no introduction to many of you in the crowd, I'm sure, but he is the CEO of Environmental Financial Products. He's also the founder of the Chicago Climate Exchange, CCX, which was based in Chicago. And I remember graduating from Northwestern. I guess at that time it was just sort of getting started, and I had no idea what it was. And nowadays you can't talk about climate policy without discussing CCX and carbon markets. So that was sort of the first exchange to facilitate trading of greenhouse gases. He's also the Aaron Director Lecturer in Law and Economics at the University of Chicago Law School and Distinguished Professor of Environmental Finance at Peking University. He's received many honors, including being recognized as the father of financial futures by the city of Chicago. He was honored as one of Time Magazine's Heroes of the Environment for his work as the father of carbon markets, and was awarded the French Legion of Honor for his accomplishments in the field of environmental finance and carbon markets. Please join me in welcoming Richard Sandor.
Thank you for that kind introduction. It doesn't get any better than standing here in partnership with the University of Chicago, with the French government, and at a law firm that's taken a leadership position on climate change. It's not only a pleasure to be here, but to see so many friends in the audience. Karen, Amy, Commissioner Chilton, a longtime friend and supporter, Eric Posner, and colleague at the University of Chicago. I would like to just spend a few moments and give you some random thoughts. And I think there's a slide that might pop up. But in the Wall Street Journal, a recent article, that isn't the one, I think there's one other, a recent article was entitled, "Whatever Happened to Climate Change?" And it was a full page of factoids saying there is no problem, nothing's gone wrong, the UN has rescinded its strong statement, and it takes anecdotal evidence from many publications and poses a very, very exacting and pointed argument against the fact that climate change exists or is man-made. And the problem is not with the arguments that the writer is making. The problem, I believe, is the question that he's asking. We have entered into a false question and answer by saying climate deniers here, scientists here, and in fact, they take polar views of certainty. The question, I think, facing the academics in the audience, the government representatives, are not a question of does it exist or doesn't exist. It is a question of probabilities, of costs and benefits, and what the impacts are of doing nothing. If the science is 80% right, or 90, or 95, or 50, we can't sustain $200 billion hurricanes, catastrophes, losses of life. And the problem arises because we don't have much or enough theory that includes both climate models and economic models. Climate scientists speak often of public policy. Economists often speak of science. And instead of speaking from a joint model which says decision-making under uncertainty and with limited information is the way to approach the problem. The same way that you would buy insurance against catastrophic occurrence, climate policy should be viewed as insurance for the planet and multi-generational. And that's the argument I would like to make. The joint effort by economists and scientists can result in a framework that will allow both to speak jointly and referencing other material as opposed to speaking strictly as a scientist or strictly as an economist. Having said all of that and all of the vitriolic arguments on both sides of the fence, particularly here in the United States, I am extraordinarily optimistic about where we stand. We nominally in the United States have no policy at the federal level, but we do have stirrings about new rules and regs that will cover power plants. We are a federal republic, and bottom-up efforts, whether they are from the city of Chicago, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in the Northeast, or California, the 8th biggest country in the world, this counts. And if we take a look at the map further, there are 7 separate exchanges in China. 7. 5 cities, 2 provinces. They cover, say, 700 to 800 million tons of carbon, bigger than the German economy. This is a pilot program. Shenzhen, and please, I always felt that the truth lie in the second part of the newspaper, in the next to the last page. And if you read the fine print, there's only one place where the RMB is fully convertible into dollars, and that is in trading carbon in Shenzhen. Make no mistake, this is a signal. It is saying something. It is not likely that the Chinese would remove it for oil, for gold, for anything else, but we now have the ability of foreigners to convert currency to trade in Shenzhen. We shouldn't forget that. In the United States, for good or bad, California is an agent of change. Whether it's social media, Apple, film, for good and bad, drugs, other sorts of recreational activities, all of these are signals of change. And California's efforts are very important. Today's Wall Street Journal pointed out that Warren Buffett is taking advantage of the California situation by buying transmission from Nevada into California. So actions are occurring. I therefore approach, and as a Francophile, the Paris meetings with a great deal of optimism. I think Paris has the opportunity to change the nature of the world policy going forward. The Indians, as the Consul General said, are stirring with the REX program. China has said by 2016 they're going to have a national program. California and Quebec have united on a program. Eric, to some of the people at the University of Chicago, maybe, and it's your specialty, not mine, why couldn't California become an entity in the UN agreement? Why couldn't Chicago join the UNFCCC? Why does it need to be government to government? Why can't it be cities, provinces, and states participating in the United Nations Treaty under the law? Is there an imaginative way to do it? Is there a clever way to do it? Because there are, in certain sections of many countries that are not members, there are significant parts of the population that would like to participate. I throw that out as a food for thought, something that the economics and law profession might have something to say about that. And I do hope, irrespective of that, that the build-up and the French efforts that we have here today will send a signal that Paris will be a defining moment. So please, let me say in conclusion, it's a great pleasure. It's a great, great country, and it's a great university, and it's a great law firm that are sponsoring today's efforts. Thank you very much.